Hello, Tom Lavecchia here with the latest edition of the New Theory podcast. Now, this is a long time coming, and he doesn't even know it. I'm here with Ankur Garg, who, in my opinion, and this me being a marketing guy, a media guy, has pretty much, in my opinion, again, invented influencer marketing, which is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. We're going to talk about him a lot, but we're also going to talk about his previous position at Shredz, which I believe is part of the co-founding team, and just was an amazing ride, and now he's doing some great stuff. So, Ankur Garg, welcome to New Theory Podcast. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, I know you're going to be humble, so let me just kind of give a little bit more. So, you were part of the team and pretty much led the team that started influencer marketing. I don't think anybody did it before you guys. We're talking about Shredz. Can you talk to us a little bit about, like, at that time, Instagram, before video was it was growing. Give us kind of like how influencer marketing started and how you literally were like the OG for it.
So I guess a lot of people don't really understand this idea of what I call attribution.
Yeah.
And back then, I mean, there was no Shopify, there was
Correct.
no WooCommerce.
Correct.
This idea of like affiliate marketing was really only the .comers that were doing
Correct.
like
Just like Amazon maybe at that time, if that.
I don't even think Amazon had an affiliate program at that point in time, right? But the .comers that would have like parked pages.
Yeah.
And they would have like affiliate marketing for
Correct.
like the links to go to like Outbrain and all
Yeah.
that. That was all that there was.
Yeah.
And what most people don't know is that I'm an entrepreneur who failed hundreds of times before I found success.
Yeah.
And it was this amazing journey, honestly, of just learning something along the way every time I tried and failed.
Yeah.
And one of those things was when I got into nightlife. I don't know if you remember, but my best friend Riz owned Fire and Ice in Fords, New Jersey.
Yeah.
I helped him do some marketing and do a bunch of different things with that. But the truth is, before that, I was a DJ doing party promotions, and we threw parties all across New York, New Jersey, internationally, across the country. Promoters don't get paid at the door of a party unless you drop their name. Yeah. Right? So there's this whole idea of attribution at the door.
Correct.
Get you credit for the people that come in.
Yeah.
And this didn't exist in anything related to e-commerce or attribution or anything. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm telling you right now, coming from sales backgrounds, Arvin and I were getting together trying to figure out, hey, how do we incentivize people who have aesthetic looks that are posting content on this new platform called Instagram, and incentivize them to like want to push other products or whatever it's going to be. Yeah. We both know that instant notifications, and instant gratification is what's going to really drive everything.
Absolutely.
Bro, we created hundreds of landing pages for different people, for different backgrounds. Like if it was a blonde hair, blue-eyed person that you saw on social media, you saw that same person on the landing page. You saw that same person in your thank you email. Yeah. Whatever we were going to create.
It was a marketing congruency or channel congruency. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. And all of this back then was with PayPal Buy Now buttons. Yeah. And so we coded something that as soon as a sale went through, the athlete or the endorsed whoever it was that we were working with would get a text message. Oh, wow. Right? We called it boom text messages back then. It was like you just got a boom because you got a sale notification. Yeah. And it was insane, man. Honestly, this idea of taking content on social media that had an image associated with it was still new. Because Instagram had just kind of came out. It was still in its nascent stages. I mean, we're talking about 5 million or less users probably at that point in time.
It's nothing.
The king was Facebook. Yeah. Right? And Facebook, Twitter, these guys were text-based systems. And Facebook had just introduced images. And then Instagram comes along and is changing the game. Correct. And in health and fitness, I mean, aesthetics are everything. Yep. And it was just this great opportunity to apply attribution and segmentation through e-commerce with PayPal Buy Now buttons. I mean, crazy. You've been around long enough to know. I know. That's insane, right? To talk
and
about
even PayPal was kind of sketchy. It felt like PayPal when it launched, and people don't realize this. We like PayPal checkouts for our clients, but it was kind of sketchy in the beginning, or at least felt sketchy. So when you saw like PayPal, you were like, "What's this?" But like you guys kind of normalized, at least in the supplement space, using PayPal. So, but you guys went deeper than that. What you guys kind of did was, if you were a sponsored athlete or you were an influencer, you also kind of took on their brand and grew their brand. So if I was, let's say, an influencer with 250,000 followers, I wanted to work with you, not just to sell to my people, but you helped promote my personal brand and grew that. And can you kind of give us the thought process behind that? Because you really have no respect for it. You really have no reason per se to give them access to your people. You already have them.
Yeah.
But you were kind of cross-pollinated. Walk us through that thought process.
I think it's the same idea that the big boys use, right? If you see like Nike signing, a LeBron or Reebok signing Stephen Curry, at the end of the day, the brand wants to talk about having this talent.
Yeah.
Right. And needless to say, just because you're a member of the talent community, whether it's in fitness through the NPC community or just like phenomenal shape as a bodybuilder or whatever it was at that point in time, you had to support them in whatever way they needed, right?
Correct.
If it was an NPC competitor and they needed endorsements so they could go stand on stage and like someone to pay their fee or whatever it was, that was one way of supporting them.
Correct.
Additionally, I mean, I'm an Indian kid.
Yeah.
We didn't have a six-pack at this point in time in my life, right? Yeah. And I mean, I had discovered beer after college, so my six-pack got destroyed. I'm sure you understand, right?
Still do.
So, I mean, people didn't want to hear from me, right? And so when the brand needs content to post and the brand has its own audience and everything, these pieces of content that needed some type of authoritative figure, these influencers solved for us, right? We didn't even call them influencers at this point because that word didn't even get coined.
What did you call them?
I mean, they were essentially our athletes, right? And this is the term that I saw Nike use, and this is the term like Red Bull and everyone else. Yeah. We didn't even come up with the term influencers until it was coined in 2013. Yeah. So the beauty, man, of the whole system was that the talent that we worked with, we were blessed to have met. I mean, these were extraordinary individuals that were just ready and primed based on their own life experience to step into the limelight. Yeah. And then when you're ready for that, I mean, you've seen it with national stage athletes, right? Those are the ones that are ready for it and they shine. Yeah. Right? And then the ones who are not ready for it. Yeah. And then you get controversy after controversy, or they get dropped, or whatever the situation happens. And there was a handful of your Kanyes, right, that had controversy but also shine and went back and forth. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I mean, promoting them was like a no-brainer.
Got it. So when you guys launched, if I remember correctly, because I used to follow it, so you guys were mainstream in a sense where, especially in New Jersey, if you were like a household name, at least in this area. And this is kind of like the fall of like Post Gaspari. So he kind of went by the wayside. I actually used to work with Liz in one of her startups, but kind of Post Gaspari, before On It took off, it kind of was like some gray space that you guys filled, and you filled it well. But I guess my question around that is, you guys like launch careers for like Joey Swole, Paige Hathaway, Devin Physique, which we'll get to in a little bit, and some key others. And again, turned into kind of a talent management house, and you shared as to why. But my question though is, did you do other channels? Did you have paid media? Did you do, organic SEO? Did you have a traditional affiliate program through like Share a Sale? Or were you guys, we're going to be the influencers? How did you handle other channels since that one channel was growing so quickly?
Yeah, across the board, we did everything.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, as I think all brand owners should, right? You should have your house accounts, places that you're not paying affiliate commissions or endorsements or whatever, or what have you. Then the opportunity for affiliates and growing those affiliates have their for various buckets and channels and how you're going to organize it. Yeah. But like, listen, man, Share a Sale was huge at this point in time.
Correct.
Couponing was really big. This was before the idea of like, use my code, Ankur 20 to save 20%. Like this stuff didn't exist.
You guys kind of, at least in the supplement space, I believe, put that on the map.
No, man, we never did coupon codes.
I thought you did.
No, man, we did attribution.
Oh, okay, got it.
So it'd be athlete.getshreds.com or athlete.shreds.com.
Got it.
And then they got credit for the
So everything, so at the time, your pixels now and stuff, but at the time, you needed a landing page per athlete. You had to.
It was the only way I knew how to put the text.
Yeah, no, of course. That's the only way you have 100% chance.
But what was great was that I still had the understanding of like Google Analytics and a variety of other tools so that we could create dashboards that would show us everything that was going on. Yeah,
which nowadays is normal, but at the time, it was not. Yeah. All right. So, so you guys started, we'll for those that are out, and again, it really was a national and international company, but it was heavy in Jersey because it was a good Jersey story. So these guys,
we shipped to over 120 countries,
which is insane.
It's unreal, right? Offices in 3 different countries.
It's insane.
2 offices here in the United States.
Wow,
it's good times, man.
So all right, so you guys started, supplement company. I think you got some financing. You guys got together, and then you started growing. But what?
Wait a sec. No financing.
No financing.
No.
You guys got financed by like a chiropractor or something?
No, man.
Oh,
so okay. I mean, let's course correct one thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't an original founder.
Okay.
I was the guy they hired on day 2.
Okay, fair enough.
So actually, a guy who was a chiropractor, he's still a chiropractor. I don't know if he's practicing anymore. Was the original partner.
Got it.
With Arvin.
Got it.
And then eventually.
So he was more founder angel. Arvin was founder, and then you were like number 2 on the employee chart.
Yeah, essentially. But those guys weren't really like founder angel. They were both working partners.
Got it.
Eventually, for personal reasons, the chiropractor phased himself out. But I mean, whatever, the relationship was all great. Yeah. And then when I brought everything to the table, it was not hard for me to earn my seat at the table.
Correct.
And then that led to the next stage and the next stage after that.
So your early rounds, you were brick by brick bootstrapping. How long did it take you to get to the first $1 million in revenue?
That's a great question, man. So I think it was either February or March of 2013.
Okay.
And I mean, I just mentioned the dashboard, right? So we had it all.
Yeah, naturally.
It was this like epic Hollywood moment.
Yeah.
I want to say it must have been 11 p.m. or 1 a.m. in the middle of the night. Arvin and I had like desks opposite each other.
Yeah.
And so we're just like working.
Yeah.
Right. And not paying attention to this dashboard. And like in the middle of it, I look over and I see the dashboard, and we're past the $1 million mark.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yo, Arvin, I think we passed $1 million." Wow. And he was just like, "What?" He couldn't even believe me. He walks over, sees my screen. He's like, "What do we do? Do we like go pop a bottle? Like, do we go celebrate? Like, is this a milestone?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yo, man, we got work to do." And so I was like, I see our espresso machine. We got a brand new Nespresso.
Nice.
I was like, let's take some shots of espresso and get back to work.
Love it.
So it became a thing for the company when we hit 10 million. We did the same thing, but we did with all of our staff.
That's
we
amazing.
ran down to Starbucks and got 56 espresso shots.
Yeah, which probably was 10 million in itself. No, just kidding.
And gave everyone in the staff an espresso shot, and then we all cheers to it and had like a speech moment and everything.
That's amazing. All right, so kind of following it. So you guys started, got to $1 million. You started to continue to grow. You use some influencers to get to where they need to be. And then you guys sent one of your colleagues out to LA and set up shop there and kind of created more of a content house. Kind of. Again, before content
This is before content houses
were about. So walk us through that, because that was a kind of a big bet.
So, I mean, you look at California, I mean, it's the best talent that you're going to find outside of New York is going to be over there. You got to have a location in California. Yeah. And we're setting up our warehousing distribution opportunity over there because shipping from New Jersey to California is not the best decision when it comes to cost. Correct. So we started setting up a dual coast shipping solution. And honestly, in New Jersey, we set up penthouses that we kind of converted into our offices.
In Jersey City, right?
In Jersey City. Because, I mean, it was like 4,500 for like 14,000 square feet. Yeah. You're never going to find Class A office space like that in Jersey City. And I'm not going to say how many desks we squeezed in there because we definitely had like a secret partnership with the building. Yeah. But we did the exact same thing in LA. We found penthouses in a premier location that was outside of like downtown LA or Hollywood. Yeah. Because obviously that comes with its own distractions. Yeah. And we were out in OC. And so 2 penthouses, which had content, house like vibes associated with them, but it was also the corporate office for our talent management team. And a lot of our talent at this point, like, who wants to live in Jersey? Yeah. If you're not from Jersey and understand
you don't get it.
East life, you just don't get it. Yeah. And the opportunities and collaborations, we didn't want to hold any of our talent back. Yeah. So setting up that studio in LA just made a lot of sense.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask you guys about is, which I would think would present HR challenges and never really got replicated. You guys had a live where you work philosophy. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, so I mean, bro, who the hell wants to commute to work, right? It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So when we were building a team here in Jersey, what we decided was, I mean, if we're going to compete with the likes of Google and to get like the best talent, correct? And they had just opened their New York office at the time. Yeah. The likes of Facebook and all these other big tech companies, we had to figure out how we were going to be different. And so one of the fringe benefits that we offered a lot of our staff at that time was, hey, we'll just pay for your apartment.
Oh, that was included.
And it would be part of it would be a bonus on top of your payroll.
Yeah.
It was just another piece of rent for us as an expense. But we just gave everyone apartments. And so their commute was literally walking from their building on campus to our building.
That's crazy.
And hopping in the elevator and going straight up.
How many employees at the time took advantage of this?
I think at our peak, we were in the mid-40s for total apartments.
Wow.
And there'd be scenarios where employees would be roommates because they became friends,
Yeah.
and we would just like partner people up.
Then you had better leverage with the landlord. You could say, hey, listen, we need a better rate or incremental. And this, again, would have been maybe commercial space you might have used anyway.
Yeah. I mean, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I've always believed in paying talent as much as you possibly can when you're profiting like crazy, right?
Yeah.
And to maintain good talent, little benefits like health benefits, places to live, like stipends for food.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been the kind of guy who takes care of everything.
Was it an HR nightmare?
No. I mean, we didn't demand it by any means.
Got it.
And each department had management, whether it was managed by me or a different member of the C-suite. And we got to allocate our hours however we wanted to, right? And we met all labor law. I mean,
naturally.
Early on in 2013, we got the guidance that like we had to figure out all of our infrastructure and SOPs and whatever needed to go into it. And we had it all set up that was not a problem.
That's amazing. Again, I won't say the P word, but during the P word, everybody kind of worked from home. So in that scenario, people kind of worked from home anyway. With you, they just happen to be where they work, which again was somewhat prophetic.
Their homes were not offices.
No, correct. But what I'm saying is they essentially were an elevator away from being where they needed to be. So okay, so I remember the influencers, things were going really well, and then I think from my perspective and as an outsider who observed, the Forbes article was a kind of a groundbreaking moment. I think you guys were at 5 million-ish at the time, and it kind of was a story about like two Indian guys from Jersey getting together to create this like $5 million brand. How did the Forbes article affect the business?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. To be honest, we were a privately held company.
Correct.
Right? So I don't know where they got that number from.
I was going to say because you were private.
The number was substantially higher. But were we gonna call them and correct them, or were we gonna try to handle this?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's kind of scary when you don't really have mentorship or like coaching what to do when you hit the 5 million, the 10 million, the 25 million, so on and so forth. And I mean, I think the fear is that there's a target on your back if you really brag about the real numbers and what you're creating. And what we were doing, honestly, we were like printing our own money.
Yeah,
it was insane. I mean, as a cocky kid from Jersey, we were making money faster than I could spend it. Yeah. And that's saying a lot. Yeah. Right.
We gotta talk about your Dubai trips in a minute. Yeah. But okay, so you guys are cooking. The number's higher than that. The Forbes article comes out. But one of the things from the positioning standpoint is you guys were mainstream enough for the casual person who works out to be aspirational, right? Which I assume was a big part of it. But I didn't get to feel you guys were like super part of the Arnold and the fabric of that community. I kind of felt you were renegades on both sides. The aspirational wanted to be you, and the Arnold serious folks, not that you guys weren't serious, were like, hey, I don't like those guys. But then yet they kind of secretly fucked you. You know what I mean? Like, how did you pull that off?
The secret is you have someone in every channel that's optimized for that channel, right? So we had yoga women and men in those channels that were perfect for that. Right? Yeah. We had the fit moms. We had the aspirational moms. We had the single mothers. We had the single fathers. We had the military vets. We had the hardcore bodybuilders. Yeah. And I mean, most people don't know this, but we had brother product lines for different groups of people.
Yeah.
And I mean, they had lifespans of their own, and until we just merged everything into one house. Because at one point, you just can't promote multiple brands. When you go right. But we had a hardcore brand that was called Black Label Subs.
Oh wow!
And it was, and like all the athletes for that brand were just like hardcore, like veins popping. Like their foreheads, like wherever.
So you did like a kind of a multi-channel, multi-brand marketing because you wanted to have those guys be on the serious stuff, and they may not even know it's Shredz per se. Smart.
And the beauty is the main product line was originally under a brand called Beyond Genetic Supplements.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if most people know this. So Beyond Genetic Supplements had its fat burner product called Shredz.
Yeah.
Had its testosterone product called Diesel. A
Interesting.
creatine product called Creatine. And a multivitamin called Vitamin Z. And that was the stack that we were selling to different customers. What ended up happening was Shredz was outselling everything else.
Shredz became the hero.
It like 100 to 1. Like it was insane what the ratio was, right?
Yeah.
I'm obviously exaggerating a little bit, but it got to a point where we were like, we need to change the Shredz fat burner, Shredz test, Shredz creatine, so on and so forth. And then that product line just kind of went with it.
Now, in the beginning, because you were bootstrapping, and now it's, without giving too much away, maybe we could share, maybe not. Was it white label in the beginning and then you went to your manufacturing, or was it, what was in the beginning?
Yeah, great question, Tom. Yeah. So I talk to people a lot in business coaching these days where I'm like educating people where they're like, now there's TikTok, has anything changed in how you handle marketing? Yeah. The formula has been the same since the dawn of time, right?
Correct.
X plus
just
Y.
insert next medium.
Yeah. X plus Y equals $.
Correct.
Product X, audience Y. You got to have a good product, an audience that wants that product, access to that audience, and then you can make money, right? So this idea that the product had to be good was key from the company's founding. Yeah. Now, was the formula the same in 2011 as what it was in 2012, 2013? No, we ideated and we created improvements and so on and so forth. And as we moved up from like a manufacturer that was 500 bottles to a manufacturer that was 10,000 bottles, a lot of things changed where you have access to better ingredients. Correct. Now that you're ordering at scale and
also
so on and so forth.
Your bigger runs, you get better margins and
all that great
more money
stuff.
for marketing and profit. Right. Yeah.
But from day one, there was always custom formulations. To be honest, private label didn't even exist.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Back then in this space, unless you were a doctor.
Yeah, correct.
Doctors were like the only one that they would private label for. Yeah. And the private label houses, I mean, even to date, are, in my opinion, really, really hard to build a brand around, right? There's a couple of guys that I know that have successfully done it, but they were just working their way to the custom product side. Yeah. And here's the crazy stuff. Like, you don't own the formula. Yeah. When you raise money, there's no IP.
Correct.
None of it's your own. Correct. Right? All you really have is a resale of a product that you're just buying at wholesale. Yeah. And the margins are trash in private label, so it doesn't make any sense.
So you guys eventually went in-house, obviously.
So no, we never actually bought the machines. So the FDA recognizes contract manufacturers
as yours,
as line time,
GMP and all that stuff.
As line time that you can rent. That you're renting the staff. So theoretically, we are the manufacturer. Right? Any brand owner in the supplement space is the manufacturer.
It's a co-packer.
It's a co-packer, essentially, right?
But I assume even at that point, you went to them early on, these two young guys, but eventually probably became a big part of that co-packer's business, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, dude, at one point we had to tell our co-packers to get like dedicated lines.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Us, right? It's like thinking about going to ShopRite or like your grocery store at like King's or wherever you're going, but having a dedicated cashier line that's always open for you whenever you want to buy product. Yeah. Because otherwise you're not going to get the product that you want at scale.
You bring a great point because you're bringing up retail and you guys, again, at the time, Gaspari, et cetera, you have to create a supplement. You need a big bodybuilder behind it. Then you got to get into GNC. Although you later on got into GNC and some retail, you guys kind of skirted retail when retail was king, and it kind of paid off.
I listen, man.
That was balls. I mean, I know with 2023, people are watching. You have to, everything's online. Retail is bad. You needed retail at the time, and you guys skirted it, which is crazy.
Don't get me wrong, man. Yeah. We combed Yahoo Maps at this point in time to get every single supplement store's phone number. Yeah. And we had scripts written, and we called probably over 2,000 stores every year to try and get them to pick up the product from 2010 to 2012. And
did you have enough margin for retail? Because sometimes when you go DTC and you sell direct, it's great. Then you have a GNC or whatever, like, hey, they want to buy it. They want 55% margin. They want to be able to return. They want to be able to mark down. Did you guys have the pricing structure for retail?
The truth is we didn't even know about direct to consumer yet.
Interesting.
Right? This is the first run of figuring out what to do with the product.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I mean, literally just imagine picking up a yellow book. Yeah. Right? Kids, a yellow book is this book that used to have all the phone numbers in. Yeah. Anyway, so we called every single supplement store we could. And I want to say 97% of the people just hung up on us. They're like, if you're not Gaspari or Optimum, we're not going to pick you up. Yeah. Shredz, what the hell is that, right? Yeah. And I think at the end of it all, the really exciting thing that happened was I had the opportunity to create a Black Friday sale. And we all went to sleep.
That was like a big thing back then, actually. I remember for you guys.
And we all went to sleep and woke up with more money in our bank account when we were like, forget the supplement store route. This isn't for us. Let's go direct to consumer. Let's really invest in this attribution model that, you know, I had essentially proposed to make this all work. Yeah. And I mean, hand over fist, man. Once we picked a direction and like we realized that was going to be our superpower, we went after it.
So the other thing is, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but I believe you guys had a proprietary. Eventually, you had a proprietary blend and supplement. But for some reason, and stop me if I'm wrong, is later on it kind of bit yourself in the butt, kind of. Or I remember hearing Arvin talk about they want to get away from proprietary. Am I wrong on that? I could be wrong, but.
So it depends on how you define proprietary blend, right? So I mean, we had custom blends from day one.
Yeah, because I always saw. Because I remember him saying real quick, just if I'm wrong, correct me. That he was kind of saying, "Hey, we went proprietary. We now want to go back to whatever you guys went back to." And I was listening to this, and I kind of was like, "Isn't proprietary good?" But keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, from a business perspective, wanting to hide your formula is a certain strategy.
Yeah. Got to protect your IP.
A lot changed in 2016 when the world kind of was like, "Hey, we want to know everything in this product before we take it." And so then transparent labels became this like thing that was never going to go away.
Got it.
I have been seeing proprietary blends come back now, but the truth is it's brands hiding that they're cutting corners. Yeah. Right? Because the cost of things going up and inflation and whatever else, like you'll often see a protein company hide that they're mixing in isolate, which is the best type of protein, with concentrate, with casein, with all sorts of other stuff, and they'll be like, "Hey, it's our high performance protein blend." Yeah. But the reality is, they're cutting corners because they have to. Okay. Right, because the customer won't pay more than $25, $30 for a pound or 2 pounds of protein. Interesting. And like, how else do you make it work right now when the cost of protein is like doubled or tripled?
All right, so. And again, this is from the outside observer. So you guys were crushing it, right? You were, what was it, Dubai? Where would you go every weekend? You were like, wherever you would go. I was like, because I followed your personal. I followed Arvin. I followed Shredz.
I followed Miles.
Yeah, so you were, so you guys were just killing it. You guys had that big dick swag, and you guys were doing extremely well. But one of the things I didn't understand from the outsider perspective, maybe because I have an agency, so maybe this resonated more, but you had kind of like creative that you were doing, and then you guys had some like sister brands you were mentoring, and then like Arvin was doing like kind of like the Tony Robbins thing, and who was it, Kamala West Coast was doing like a lot of video, and I just kind of felt from the outsider standpoint, I'm like, these guys are kind of all in, but they're not. Is that a fair assessment, or am I a little way off on that?
It's an interesting question. I think
that's not an indictment. It's just an observation.
No, everyone was all in one vision. Yeah. It was just so large that if you only got to see 10 minutes of Arvin's day or 10 minutes of my day, you couldn't even fathom the amount of stuff we were getting done in a full day. Got it. Right? What made the C-suite really special and the different high-level managers really special was that in one 20-hour workday with 4 hours of sleep, which was pretty much what we averaged, we would be doing at like a full work week, 40 hours worth of work.
Kind of the Elon Musk model where if I work more, I get more done in less time.
Yeah, and not just that, but like in a work week of 7 days, we were working 7 days.
So you had, so I got it. So you kind of had the platform. So you guys might have you worked your ass off, and we might have saw a little bit of serendipitous stuff. But that little bit was a lot because you already put in the hours.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
And honestly, in a week, we were doing 7 weeks worth of work in each of us. Yeah. So you combine all of us.
So compounds.
Right. And then you combine all of us, and in a week, we were literally doing hundreds of weeks worth of work, which is why no one could keep up with us. All the copycats had no idea what we were doing. Yeah. Anyone who even tried copying us, I just kind of laughed it off. I was like, this is cute. It's honestly, it's humbling that someone wants to copy what we're doing, but like, good luck.
I don't think anybody has since, not at that level, at least from the bottom, at least.
I've seen a lot of really great companies come up. Okay. And I'm in awe of some of the stuff that these guys are doing now. And,
it's also, they have a lot more tools and it's easier.
Yeah.
Like if you guys had half the tools back then, you'd be $300 million company right now.
And, you know, I shout out to some of the guys that spun out that used to work for us, right? They did it their own way when they restarted.
Oh, there's some Shred alum that started their own brands?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And they're killing it right now.
Good
and
for
I have
them.
nothing but admiration for what they're doing.
Good for them.
You got Nick Stella, who owns Rise.
Yeah.
Right? You got Ronak Shah, who owns Obvi.
Okay, cool.
And there's a handful of other ones you might not have heard of. But those are the big guys.
Good for them.
I mean, honestly, you know, these are scenarios where what we were doing and what put us ahead the map back then, applying that same logic, but then going with the industry trends and what's changed and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are killing it.
So you kind of touched on your day. What was your average day like back then? What time did you get up? You know, what time did you have lunch? Like, what was your normal day like?
Dude, that's so hard to answer, man.
Yeah.
When you're on the come up and like you're getting a high from like really just accomplishing work. I mean, there were some days where there were 40-hour sprints. This idea of a sprint where you just work straight 40 hours and then sleep for 8. Yeah. And then there were some times where, like, you know, 20-hour days where you would work till 2, 3 in the morning, and then you'd wake up again at like 6, 7 and just start back working.
So what about culturally? Now forget it. I don't know if you get away with, especially with Gen Z and millennials, the whole 20-hour, you know, like it was different back then in terms of people, you know, they lived there, they worked there, you compensated them well. Now, I got some stories myself, but it's hard to find that type of commitment. Where did you guys stand out from a kind of a performance management standpoint for employees? Did you have, you know, good bands? Were you bonus heavy? Did you fire quickly, people not performing? You know, what was your kind of philosophy, and how did you apply your talent management strategy to the home office crew?
All right, so there's layers to the question you just threw at me. So first, let's talk about when I talk about 20-hour days and like these 40-hour sprints.
Well, it's probably C-suite and
it's
senior
the owners,
manager.
Right?
Yeah,
the owners are doing that. And no one's going to work harder for your business than you are, right?
Correct.
Staff had regular office hours, right? 40, 44 hours, whatever a week. But then they had opportunities to make bonuses and commissions and a variety of other incentives if they wanted to work extra hours. Yeah. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said I was definitely part of the group that made it seem like, hey, you got to keep up with us. Yeah. Right. And was I wrong for it? I probably was. Yeah. Right. I can be honest about that, vulnerable about that. Yeah. In retrospect, did those types of behaviors lead to employee burnout? It sure did. Right. And I mean, I've heard some of these guys talk about it in blogs and other podcasts and so on and so forth. And I mean, I would love to apologize to all of them individually for whatever role I played in creating that culture. Yeah. I mean,
were you a dick back then?
I mean, to be fair, are my expectations high of anyone? Sure. Yeah, they can be. Am I a better manager today than I was back then? Absolutely. Yeah. Right. It's a whole decade of time difference, honestly. Yeah. But the key part to all of this that has to be brought up that none of these guys ever bring up when they talk about it, and this isn't to defend myself. Yeah. If you're getting paid 6 figures, all right, and I don't mean like just over 100K. I mean, like if you're making 200K a year, I mean, these aren't jobs. You don't make that kind of money working a 20-hour work week.
And this is back in like 15.
Right? Like, we're talking 2013, 2014, right? But you don't make that kind of money without really putting
be connected
to work.
You got to have to be plugged in.
When you are making that kind of money in your first year or second year working with the business, and you know the next year you can make 300 or 400. This is your chance in life to really make something of yourself.
You piece together 5-6 years, and you invest well, you're done.
Now, unfortunately, I mean, I wasn't able to live up to the promise that I made a bunch of employees that they were gonna, get what they were gonna get, and the cash out opportunity.
Yeah, if you could elaborate, not individually, but just were you a kind of dangling equity guy? Were you, hey, on exit? Yeah. Why do, other than the $250,000, which is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but I need to feel promise and hope. What was kind of the promise for some of those people?
I mean, truthfully, I probably structured it in a way where my role in certain conversations was selling the dream, right? That the money printer is never going to stop, and we're going to grow this to cash out $100 million company, $300 million company, $1 billion company, whatever it was going to be, everyone's going to get a piece. Same promise that the Facebook guys gave when they were on their come up, getting the janitor shares instead of
but the smarter guys, if I'm making $250,000, you're generally dealing with more talent. Don't get me wrong, I got screwed. We all got screwed in our careers. But what about the guy or gal who's like, you know what, I'm in, but I need to be on the cap table, or I'm in, I need some type of like RSUs to vest if you sell. Like, how did you did you maybe, again, and I appreciate you being humble, because you need to be in business, where did you kind of maybe, with goodwill and good intent, want to do it, but maybe not when it came to the application, or what kind of happened?
Honestly, I think there's lack of experience on my part of understanding how RSUs work and how cap tables work and everything that. I mean, they only teach you so much in business school, right? They only teach you so much in undergrad. And I mean, where do you even learn all this stuff unless you get like practical experience in the real world?
And you learn the hard way.
And I mean, there were opportunities for us to give RSUs, and we might not have called it RSUs back then.
Whatever it was,
did we do it right? I mean, probably not, to be honest, right? But the promises that I know that I personally made to people to cash out were that, you know, when I get to cash out, I'm going to share with everyone. And anyone who knows me knows that when I have it, I share it openly with everyone around me. And don't get me wrong, I shared it during those times.
To be candid, and I don't have to look word on the street, but just been following you for a while. We probably have about 10 mutual friends, some of which we talked about earlier when we first hooked back up. Nobody really says much bad things about you.
Whew. That's
I mean, if you were, I'd like to be transparent. So if there were some digs or something, did you work too hard? Yeah. Were you probably dicky? Sure. But you were doing some big things, and you were also younger too. Like, to run that type of business, which leads me to my next question. Hopefully this makes sense. But people think, Mark Cuban, sales cures all. One of the times where I almost crashed my business is when the end of 16, and I grew 50% within 1 year, and I didn't have the process and people in place, and my 17 was a categorical disaster, and I almost went out of business because I grew too quick, too fast. Right? I didn't want to get into it on the podcast, and I will at a later date. But my question to you is, what advice do you have somebody who's watching who is actually growing very quickly and, without, thinking it's going to last forever? And how do you manage growth? Give kind of some of the learnings and advice you have somebody who's growing wildly and just think it's never going to end.
I mean, all these gurus on entrepreneurship and like all over social media, they'll always say this concept that like, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
That's right.
Find coaching as quick as you possibly can of someone smarter than you, more experienced than you.
Correct.
I mean, I cannot tell you how painful it was to not have anyone to go get advice from, right? Who do you go to when you get lawsuits for all the various reasons that we got lawsuits? We won them all, but who do you go to for that advice, right? Who do you go to for advice on HR issues that like, you've never even heard of before, right? Correct. Stuff that doesn't even make any sense to you.
That's right.
Nothing you can Google about either, right? And you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And any entrepreneur who thinks they're the smartest person in the room
usually isn't.
Is so unaware of the gap of experience that you need to have. Yeah. And I'm going to say this crystal clear, right? To guarantee that you retain your success to a point of cash out, if you don't get good coaching, you're gonna fall apart at some point. Something is going to happen that you were unprepared for, that you just won't be able to get over, right? If for some people it's an FTC lawsuit, right? For some people it's an employee lawsuit, right? For some people it's a class action from their customers. For some people it's a recall, right? Because some protein went bad or something happened, and then they could never recover from it. Pun intended. For some people it's a Photoshop scandal, right?
Which we'll get into.
There's all sorts of stuff that could happen that could cause things to fall apart. But if you're not prepared to know how to handle it, I mean, these guys that are on that come up now, man, get coaching, right? And I could assure anyone, right, for what I built, which, I'm currently going to publicists and going with this story of like 9 figures of revenue in direct-to-consumer businesses. Hit me up. I'll happily coach any one of these guys of like what they don't know, they don't know. I will tell them and guide them. Now, will they listen to me, or will they be some cocky SOBs that are like, no, Ankur doesn't know what he's talking about. That'll never happen to me.
Yeah.
Man, I assure you, man, just every problem that we're facing, someone has faced before us.
What was it hard? Because sometimes, so I've gotten some advice that says I would not want to get business advice from somebody I'm not willing to switch bank accounts with. You may be making too much money to go to that wise uncle where you're like, you know what, I don't want to talk to him, although he does pretty well. I got a bigger house on the hill. Like, were you almost making too much money to kind of call on the people you normally would call on for, kind of as a consigliere?
I outgrew my circles so fast.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. Right. The rich uncle, the most he ever made was $1 million.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're talking about espresso shots.
Yeah.
We passed that point.
Yeah.
Now what do I do? Right.
Yeah.
And the truth is, people want to see you do well.
Yeah.
But not better.
Not better than them. Yeah.
Right. And at a certain point, that evil eye comes into the picture of the discussions.
Yep.
I mean, there's this funny story I tell sometimes. My parents, I love them, right?
Yeah.
And when I really started cashing out and getting real money through my own payroll and whatever, I didn't go out and buy a flashy car for myself.
Yeah.
I bought my mom an AMG from Mercedes,
amazing.
and I bought my dad a flashy Jaguar car,
That's
right?
amazing.
But they were too afraid to be honest with their friends, saying that their son bought this, because I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm not the engineer.
Yeah.
The immigrant story of like what people are used to seeing real money.
Yeah.
They thought all their friends would think I'm a drug dealer.
Yeah, I think it's illegal. Yeah.
And so they just lied and said that they bought it themselves.
Interesting.
And so, I mean, that just goes to show the circles that they were around would never be able to comprehend what I was doing or give me advice. I remember one time I called a college professor who I respected and loved. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to not bring up names or anything, but like, hey, like, this is my situation. Give me some guidance. And it was a supply chain issue.
Yeah.
All the advice that they gave me was wrong. It was by the book, but had nothing to do with real life,
real world application. Instead of further jam you up towards seeking solace or mentorship.
It's crazy, right? Yeah. The scenario at hand to kind of draw a picture is, hey, stuff is in California. I need to get to New Jersey. They're not giving me an option of how to make this happen. And they're just like, yeah, it's not possible to make it happen unless you do air freight and you pay all this extra money and so on and so forth. And like, if you don't have real practical experience or teaching or whatever the case is, they don't know about 2-car truck shifts.
Correct.
Right? You can have 2, you can even have 3 people in a truck doing shifts to drive something from coast to coast and get it done in 3 days. But you got to pay.
Got to pay the freight.
It's still cheaper than air freight to get it across here.
That's correct.
But there are solutions
or
in
trains
place.
And other stuff you can do.
But again, you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
And these teachers don't know nothing about real life practical problem solving.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, let me not put them all in a bucket.
Yeah.
The people that I had access
reach
to,
out to,
right, didn't have real life practical understanding at 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, what to do to solve problems.
Good point. All right. What I want to do is, let me jump on my call. I like this where it's going. Can we stay on our podcast?
Sure.